Adam was just another soldier in the human fleet, stationed on a peaceful diplomatic mission to an alien planet. He never expected much from it. His mission was simple: attend the formal meetings, help with minor defense, and avoid making waves. It was meant to be a routine assignment. Excitement. Nothing dangerous. But on the first night in the grand hall of the alien palace, Adam found himself seated at a long table, surrounded by strange beings from other worlds. The room was filled with a mix of excitement and tension. The aliens were known for their pride and deep traditions, and Adam had been warned to be on his best behavior. This was a meeting of importance, where the future of the galaxy could shift in subtle ways. The leader of the aliens, tall and regal being named Lyra, sat at the head of the table. Her eyes glowed softly, and her silver hair shimmered in the light. Adam had been briefed about Hirsch. He was an alien princess, one of the most respected leaders in the galaxy. She was calm, powerful, and deeply intelligent. But Adam didn't let the pressure get to him. He wasn't here to impress her. He was here to do his job. During the first few hours of discussions, Adam felt like an outsider. The conversations were filled with technical language, strategies, and the politics of a universe far more complicated than anything he had experienced. He could barely follow the discussions. It was all so formal, so stiff. And as the night wore on, Adam found himself bored and restless. He started to zone out, tapping his fingers on the table, trying to stay awake. Then, without really thinking, he muttered something to one of the other soldiers beside him. It was meant to be a joke, a small distraction from the seriousness around him. Maybe I should just ask her to marry me. You know, lighten the mood, Adam said with a grin. The words were out before he could stop them. It was childish and completely out of place, but it felt like the right thing to say. He couldn't help himself. His fellow soldier chuckled quietly but didn't say anything. Adam wasn't sure if anyone else had heard, but he didn't care. It was a throwaway comment. Joke. No harm done. But then, something unexpected happened. As the night went on, and the discussion deepened, Adam noticed a quiet shift. His eyes wandered across the table, and he caught Lyra's gaze. To his surprise, her eyes were fixed on him. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Adam quickly turned his gaze away, feeling awkward. He had said something stupid, and now she was probably wondering who this young soldier was. But then, to his shock, Lyra spoke. Her voice was smooth, cool, and filled with an authority that made everyone else fall silent. I heard your comment. Soldier, you wish to marry me. Adam froze. His heart raced, and he felt his face flush. He didn't know what to say. It only meant it as a joke, a simple line to break the tension, he stammered, trying to recover from the embarrassing situation. I didn't mean it like that, Your Highness. It was just ... a joke. I didn't. Lyra smiled, a soft, almost amused smile. I understand, soldier, she said, her voice almost too calm. But I will remember your words. The rest of the night passed in a blur for Adam. He couldn't get her words out of his head. I will remember your words. What did she mean by that? Was she amused? Was she offended? He had no idea, but one thing was clear. His childish comment had made an impression, and he had no way of knowing how it might affect him later. As the meeting continued, Adam couldn't help but steal glances at Lyra. She was stunning, regal, and confident. But there was something else about her, something mysterious in the way she carried herself. The longer he stared, the more he realized that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't like the cold, untouchable leaders he had been used to. She seemed human in some strange way. Finally, the meeting ended. The diplomats and leaders from various species exchanged pleasantries, and Adam was left feeling a little disoriented. He tried to laugh off his awkwardness, telling himself that it had just been a momentary lapse, nothing to worry about. After all, he was just a soldier doing his job, but deep down, couldn't shake the feeling that he had crossed some invisible line. And, more than that, he couldn't forget the look in Lyra's eyes when she had turned to him. She had been serious. And the way she had spoken those words, he couldn't help but wonder if it was more than just a joke to her. Adam would soon learned that sometimes even the most careless words could change the course of his life. The joke that he thought had been harmless would follow him, and Lyra would never forget it. Years passed since Adam's awkward joke, and he had long forgotten about the strange moment with Lyra. He continued his service as a soldier, moving from one mission to the next, doing his best to keep up with the ever-changing demands of his duties. His life was a blur of distant worlds, alien cultures, and endless battles. Every mission felt the same until one day. Everything changed. Adam was sitting in the briefing room, looking over the latest intelligence reports, when he heard his name called. His commanding officer, Captain Hayes, stood at the door with a serious look on his face. "Adam, we've got a special assignment for you," Captain Hayes said. "You're being sent to Lyra's planet." For a moment, Adam felt a jolt of surprise. Lyra's planet? The same alien princess he had encountered years ago? He hadn't thought about her since that awkward meeting, and the memory of that joke came rushing back. His face flushed slightly as he remembered how he had stumbled through that conversation with her. But the mission was important, and he couldn't afford to let his past mistakes interfere with his work. "You'll be part of the diplomatic team," Captain Hayes continued. "Your job is to assist in securing a new alliance between the humans and the other galactic powers. The situation is tense. You'll need to keep your cool." Adam nodded. He was a soldier, after all. He'd faced worse situations before. But this felt different. He had no idea what to expect, and the thought of facing Lyra again made him uneasy. Was she still angry? Had she forgotten the joke? The journey to Lyra's planet took several days. As the ship entered the atmosphere, Adam stared out the window, thinking about everything that had happened. What would he say to her? Would she even remember him? He hoped she had moved on, as he had. After all, it was just a joke, right? When they finally landed, Adam stepped off the ship with the rest of the crew. The air was thick with tension, but the landscape around him was stunning. Lyra's planet was a place of majestic beauty forests, filled with towering trees, rivers that sparkled under the sunlight, and vast fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. Yet, despite the peaceful surroundings, Adam could sense the underlying political struggles that brewed beneath the surface. This was not the same place he had visited before. He was escorted through the palace, a massive structure made of smooth stone and glittering metal, until they reached the main hall. Adam's heart beat faster as they walked closer to the throne room. He had no idea what to expect, but the moment he entered the room, his eyes landed on her. Lyra stood at the center of the room, her presence commanding and serene. She was more beautiful than he remembered, with her silver hair flowing like liquid light and her dark eyes filled with wisdom and mystery. She was no longer the young princess he had met all those years ago. She had become a powerful ruler in her own right. The room fell silent as everyone turned to her. There was no mistaking her authority. Adam swallowed hard, trying to keep his composure. He had to remind himself that he wasn't just here to face her. He was here to work, to help broker peace. It didn't matter what happened between them. They were professionals. "Welcome, human diplomat," Lyra said, her voice smooth and controlled. "I am honored to have you here." Her eyes briefly flicked to Adam, and for a moment he thought he saw a glimmer of recognition. He cleared his throat. "Thank you, Your Highness," he said, keeping his voice steady. "It's good to be here." The two exchanged formal pleasantries, discussing the terms of the alliance. But every now and then, Adam couldn't help but notice Lyra's gaze. It was subtle, almost like a flicker of something he couldn't quite place. Did she remember him? Did she still think about that joke? The next few days were filled with tense meetings and high-stakes negotiations. Adam worked hard, doing everything he could to help the humans and their allies secure a peaceful agreement. But in the back of his mind, Lyra was always there. Her presence, her intelligence, and that strange connection they had shared. One evening, after another long day of negotiations, Adam found himself alone in the palace's courtyard, staring up at the stars. The sky was breathtaking, filled with distant galaxies and shimmering lights. He let out a deep breath, trying to push away the thoughts of the past. A voice said from behind him, "You should really be more careful with your words." "Adam," turned around, surprised to see Lyra standing there, her silhouette outlined by the soft light of the stars. She was dressed in a flowing gown, her eyes soft yet intense. "I didn't expect you to remember," Adam said, his voice hesitant. "It was a long time ago, just a joke." Lyra smiled slightly, her gaze unwavering. "You forget, soldier," she said, stepping closer. "Not all jokes are forgotten. Some words, no matter how careless, stick with us. They become ... important." Adam felt a chill run down his spine. Was she angry? He couldn't tell. There was something in her eyes, something deeper than just politeness or diplomacy. It was as though she was saying something more, something he couldn't quite understand yet. "I didn't mean to offend you," Adam said, his voice soft. "I just ... I never thought it would matter." Lyra studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. "I know," she said finally. "But it did matter, and it still does." Adam wasn't sure what to say. The words she spoke were heavy with meaning, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were just the beginning of something he wasn't prepared for. As the night went on, Adam couldn't help but wonder about the strange bond between them. What had started as a careless joke seemed to be turning into something far more complex. He had no idea where it would lead, but one thing was clear: his life would never be the same again. The days that followed Adam's brief conversation with Lyra were filled with unease. He couldn't stop thinking about the look in her eyes when she spoke those words. It still matters. What did she mean? What was happening between them? She had made it clear that his old joke wasn't something she'd just laugh off. Adam had expected her to brush it aside, but instead, there seemed to be something deeper at play. The diplomatic meetings continued, but Adam found it harder too. Focus. The discussions on trade and alliances were important, of course, but his mind kept drifting back to Lyra. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to this whole situation than just politics. Every time they spoke, she seemed to hold a piece of herself back, as though there was an unspoken truth between them that neither of them was willing to confront. One evening, after another long day of talks, Adam found himself in the palace, gardens trying to clear his mind. The stars above were bright, and the air smelled of flowers Adam didn't recognize. He'd always enjoyed being outdoors, the quiet giving him a moment to think as he walked down a stone path. His thoughts filled with questions about Lyra and his own feelings for her. He heard footsteps behind him. "Presence as commanding as ever?" "Why do you walk alone?" she asked, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. "I like to think," Adam replied, his tone careful. "Sometimes it helps me clear my head." Lyra stepped closer, her silver hair shimmering in the moonlight. "I see." There was a pause as she studied him, her eyes unreadable. "You seem ... distant? Is it because of me?" Adam was taken aback by the question. "No," he said quickly. "I just got a lot on my mind. The mission, the talks." She tilted her head slightly. "You've been avoiding me, I've noticed." Adam felt his heart race. He hadn't meant to avoid her, but there was something about the way she looked at him that made him uncomfortable. Something he couldn't put into words. "I haven't been avoiding you," he said, his voice a little shaky. "I just ... Oh, don't know what to say." Lyra's eyes softened, but only for a moment. "It's all right, Adam. I know you never meant to cause any harm with your words, but you did leave an impression on me, whether you know it or not." She paused, then added, "I've been thinking about that day, the joke you made." Adam didn't know what to say. His mind was racing. He had always thought of it as a careless comment, something to get a laugh out of. But clearly, Lyra didn't see it that way. "You're right," she continued. "It was just a joke to you, but to me it was more. You spoke without fear, without knowing the consequences. That's something rare." Adam shook his head, unsure of what she was getting at. "It wasn't serious. I didn't think it would mean anything to you." "Perhaps not," Lyra said, her tone softening. "But it meant something to me. It made me wonder what kind of human would speak so freely in front of someone like me. Most beings are careful around me, but you were different. You weren't afraid to joke. Now, for some reason, that stuck with me." Adam couldn't believe what he was hearing. Had never intended for the joke to have any weight behind it. And yet, here she was, talking about it as if it were some kind of turning point. Lyra stepped closer to him, her eyes never leaving his. I'm not like the others. I'm not the princess who sits on a throne and orders people around. I'm a leader, yes, but I also feel the weight of that responsibility. I carry it every day. And sometimes, I wonder if anyone sees me as anything more than a ruler. Adam met her gaze, his mind swirling with questions. I see you, Lyra. I do, but I don't know what this means. I don't know what you want me to say. She smiled faintly. A small, sad smile. I'm not asking for anything. I only want you to understand that sometimes words have meaning that we don't realize at first. For a moment, they stood in silence, the weight of their unspoken thoughts hanging in the air. Adam wanted to ask her so many things, to tell her that he wasn't sure what was happening between them, that he wasn't sure if he was ready to deal with whatever this was, but all he could do was nod slowly. I think I understand, Adam said, his voice quiet. Lyra studied him for a moment longer, then stepped back. I'm glad, Adam, there's one more thing you should know. That? He asked. His curiosity piqued. That joke you made all those years ago, she said, her voice soft but firm. It wasn't just a joke to me. It was a seed planted in my mind, and I've been carrying it ever since. Adam's heart skipped a beat, felt a mix of emotions, surprise, confusion, and something else that he couldn't name. Could it be? Was it possible that the joke he had made all those years ago had led to this moment? Before he could ask her to explain, Lyra turned and began to walk away. I think you'll understand soon enough, she said, her voice trailing off as she disappeared. Into the shadows of the garden, Adam stood there alone, his mind racing. He had no idea where this was leading, but one thing was clear, this wasn't going to be a simple mission anymore. There was something bigger happening here, something he hadn't expected. And whether he was ready or not, it was going to change everything. The days after their conversation in the garden felt heavier for Adam than he could have imagined. Lyra's words had stuck with him, turning over in his mind like a stone caught in his chest. Wow. It wasn't just a joke to me. Those words repeated, over and over, and Adam couldn't help but wonder what they meant. What was Lyra trying to tell him? Was she serious about what she had said, or was this just another part of the diplomatic game she had to play? Despite the weight of those thoughts, Adam did his best to focus on the mission. The alliance talks were becoming more complicated. Negotiations between the various factions were growing tense. Some of the alien races were reluctant to trust the humans, still skeptical about their place in the galaxy. But Lyra, with her calm, yet powerful demeanor, continued to work tirelessly to bring everyone together. Adam couldn't help but admire her dedication and strength. But he also felt the distance between them growing, like an invisible wall that neither of them dared to cross. One evening, as the stars twinkled brightly over the palace, Adam found himself sitting alone in the common area, going over some of the latest reports. He'd been busy all day, meeting with representatives, discussing the terms of the alliance, and trying to keep the peace. But despite his best efforts, his thoughts kept returning to Lyra. Was there something between them? Was she just playing a part in this grand political game? Or was there something more to it? As he sat there, lost in thought, the door opened quietly, and to his surprise, Lyra stepped in. Her silver hair shimmered in the low light, and her eyes, those deep, captivating eyes, met his. For a moment, neither of them spoke. There was a strange tension in the air, like the calm before a storm. May I sit? Lyra asked, her voice soft yet firm. Adam nodded, feeling a strange mix of nervousness and relief. Of course. She walked over and sat down across from him, her gaze never leaving his. Adam could feel the weight of her presence like a pull he couldn't escape. They sat in silence for a moment, the only sound the soft hum of the palace. How are the talks going? Lyra asked, her tone casual, though Adam could sense the underlying concern in her voice. Complicated, Adam replied, leaning back in his chair. Some of the other factions are ... hesitant. They don't trust us. And they're not exactly keen on working with the human fleet. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. I expected as much. But we must try. This alliance is too important. Galaxy is changing, Adam. There are forces out there that threaten us all. We must stand together, or we risk falling apart. Adam could see the determination in her eyes, the fire that burned behind her calm exterior. She wasn't just speaking as a princess. She was speaking as a leader who carried the weight of her people on her shoulders. "You're right," he said, his voice quieter now. "But it's not easy. Some people still don't believe humans belong in the same room as the rest of the galaxy's powers." Lyra smiled faintly, though there was sadness in her expression. "It will take time, but we have to prove them wrong." There was a long pause, and Adam couldn't help but feel the tension growing between them. He knew there was more Lyra wanted to say. She had been avoiding him, and he had been avoiding her. It was as though they both feared what might happen if they let their guard down. Finally, Lyra spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're more than just a soldier, Adam. I've seen that." Adam looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Lyra took a deep breath, as if choosing her words carefully. "When I first met you, I saw only a human soldier, another face in the crowd of diplomats and warriors. But over time, I've come to see something more in you. You have courage, not just in battle, but in your words. Speak your mind, even when it's foolish. And that's rare." Adam felt his heart beat faster. "I never meant to make you feel uncomfortable with that joke." Lyra shook her head, a small, knowing smile on her lips. "It wasn't just the joke, Adam. It was your honesty. Most people would never dare speak like that to someone like me. But you didn't hold back. It made me wonder, what else do you hide behind that soldier's mask?" Adam wasn't sure how to respond. He had never thought of himself as someone with a mask, but now that Lyra mentioned it, he realized he had built walls around himself, especially after the horrors of war. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to let those walls fall down. "I don't hide anything," Adam said quietly. "I'm just trying to do my job, Lyra. But I've never been good at playing games. I'm not a diplomat. I'm a soldier." Lyra studied him for a moment, then stood up. "Then let's stop playing games." Adam's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Lyra looked down at him, her eyes intense. "You've been avoiding me, Adam? You've been afraid of something that isn't there. Maybe. You're afraid of me, of what we could be. But I'm not afraid. I'm not the princess you once thought I was." Adam's heart raced as he stood up to face her. "I'm not afraid of you." Lyra stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. "Then stop hiding. Stop pretending. You're not just a soldier. I'm not just a ruler. Maybe it's time we both accepted that." For a moment, neither of them moved. Adam felt his breath catch in his throat, his mind racing. This was no longer just about the alliance. This was about something deeper, something he had been trying to avoid. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "We have to be honest with each other, Adam. If we're going to change the galaxy, we have to start by changing ourselves." Adam nodded slowly, his mind swirling with emotions he couldn't quite explain. He didn't know where this would lead. But he knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, strategies, and growing tension. Adam and Lyra continued to work together, but something had shifted between them. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, with feelings neither of them dared to acknowledge fully. Every time Adam found himself near her, he couldn't help but feel the weight of what had happened between them. The walls they had built were slowly crumbling, and Adam wasn't sure he was ready for the consequences. Their alliance talks had reached a critical point. The various factions were demanding answers, pressing for clearer commitments from the human side. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and Adam knew this mission was far more important than any personal feelings. Lyra, however, seemed even more determined than ever. She was a leader, after all, and her people depended on her. Still, Adam couldn't shake the feeling that there was something deeper happening between them. One night, after a long and exhausting day of negotiations, Adam found himself alone in the palace courtyard again. The stars above shone brightly, casting a soft light across the peaceful gardens. He had always found peace in the quiet, but tonight, even the stars seemed distant. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. He had tried to push his feelings. For Lyra aside, he told himself that they were just fleeting thoughts, distractions from the real work at hand. But deep down, he knew it wasn't that simple. There was something about Lyra that called to him, something he couldn't ignore, as he walked along the stone path. Trying to sort through his feelings, he heard footsteps behind him. He turned, and there she was, Lyra, her silver hair glowing. Softly in the moonlight, "Adam," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "We need to talk." Adam's heart skipped a beat. "About the negotiations?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Lyra shook her head.
How?
"About us." The words hit Adam harder than he expected. Swallowed, suddenly unsure of how to respond. "Us," he repeated. I don't know what to say." Lyra took a step closer, her eyes never leaving his. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About the joke, I mean. It's about everything that's happened since. And I think you should know something." Adam felt his pulse quicken. "What do you mean?" Lyra stood still for a moment, her gaze intense. "When you made that joke all those years ago, I didn't take it lightly. It stayed with me. It wasn't just a joke to me. It was something more. I didn't understand it then, but now I do." Adam's mind raced. "Lyra, I didn't mean for it to mean anything. It was just a way to lighten the mood. I didn't think you'd even remember." "I did remember," she replied softly, "and it changed me. It made me think about things I'd never considered, about what it means to be human, about what it means to be more than just a ruler or a soldier. And when I saw you again, something inside me shifted. I can't explain it, Adam, but I know. Now that I can't ignore what I feel," Adam's heart pounded in his chest. He had known for some time that there was something between them, something that couldn't be ignored. But hearing it from Lyra's lips made everything feel real. Had never expected this. He had never expected her to take his joke seriously, let alone for it to have such a profound impact on her. "Lyra, I don't know what to say," Adam stammered, his words fumbling in his mouth. Lyra smiled faintly. "You don't have to say anything, Adam. I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we could be. But I need to know if you feel the same way, if you're ready for what this means for us, and for the future of the galaxy." Adam felt his world shift. He had been so focused on his duties, so focused on the mission, that he had never stopped to consider what this was between him and Lyra. But now, standing there in the quiet of the night, with Lyra standing before him, he realized that he had always felt something for her, something deep, something powerful. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop running from it. "Hearing all what the future holds," Adam said, his voice low, "but I do know that I care about you more than I should, more than I ever expected." Lyra's expression softened, and she took another step closer, closing the distance between them. "Then let's stop pretending. Let's stop letting fear control us. The galaxy is already watching us, Adam. Maybe it's time we started watching each other." Adam's heart raced as Lyra reached out and placed her hand gently on his arm. The touch was electric, sending a wave of warmth through him. He couldn't help but lean in closer, his breath catching in his throat. For the first time, the weight of everything, the war, the alliance, the mission, seemed to fade away. It was just the two of them in that moment, standing on the edge of something neither of them could fully understand. "I don't want to make any more mistakes," Adam whispered. "You haven't," Lyra replied softly. "We both have our pasts, but the future is ours to decide." As she spoke, she leaned in, her eyes searching his. And in that moment, Adam knew that everything was changing. Not just for him and Lyra, but for the entire galaxy. The alliance, the political games, the diplomacy, it all suddenly seemed so small compared to what they were about to face together. Adam closed the distance between them, his hand reaching up to gently cup her face. Lyra's eyes closed for a moment as she leaned into his touch, and the world around them seemed to disappear. This was no longer just about a joke. It was about something much bigger, a connection that neither of them had expected but both knew they needed. It was about the future, the galaxy, and the bond they shared that was stronger than anything they had ever imagined. The days that followed were some of the most intense and confusing moments of Adam's life. He couldn't stop thinking about his conversation with Lyra in the garden, about how they had both admitted to something they had been trying to ignore. There was a bond between them, something deeper than either had realized. The thought of it scared Adam more than he wanted to admit. But it also filled him with a sense of hope. The political situation remained tense. The negotiations between the various factions were growing more difficult with each passing day. But despite the pressure, Adam found himself focused on Lyra more than ever. The more time he spent with her, the more he realized how much he admired her. She was strong, intelligent, and compassionate, a leader who carried the weight of an entire world on her shoulders. Yet, beneath her commanding presence, there was a warmth and vulnerability that no one else saw. Adam saw it, and he couldn't deny the pull he felt toward her. One evening, after another long day of talks, Adam was walking through the palace gardens once more. The stars above were bright, casting their soft glow across the quiet space. It had become a place of comfort for him, a place where he could gather his thoughts and escape from the chaos of the negotiations. As he walked, he heard footsteps behind him. He didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Lyra's presence was unmistakable. "Adam," she said softly, her voice calm, yet filled with an undercurrent of emotion. He turned to face her, his heart racing. "Lyra," he replied, his voice almost a whisper. She smiled faintly, her silver hair catching the light of the stars. "I've been thinking," she began, taking a step closer to him. "About us? About everything?" Adam's breath caught in his throat. He had been thinking about the same thing, but he hadn't known how to bring it up. "I've been thinking about it too," he said, his voice filled with honesty. Lyra's eyes searched his face, as though trying to read the truth in his expression. "I know this isn't easy. I know that what we're talking about is top complicated, but I can't ignore it anymore. Adam, I can't pretend that this," she motioned between them, "is just a passing moment." Adam felt a surge of emotion rise within him. He had known, from the very first moment they had spoken, that there was something between them. But hearing Lyra say it out loud made it real, and that scared him. It scared him because he had spent so many years protecting himself from the dangers of attachment, from the possibility of loss. He had never imagined that someone like Lyra would make him feel so vulnerable, so exposed. "I know," he said quietly. "I know this isn't easy, but I don't want to ignore it either. You mean more to me than I ever thought was possible." Lyra reached out, gently taking his hand in hers. "I never expected this. I never expected you, Adam. You came into my life like a storm, shaking everything I thought I knew. And now, here we are, at a crossroads." Adam looked down at their hands, the warmth of her touch grounding him. "What do we do now?" he asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Lyra paused for a moment, as though considering the weight of his question. "We take the first step together," she said finally. "We don't know what the future holds, but we can't let fear stop us. Not anymore." Adam felt a sense of peace wash over him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. The uncertainty was still there, but so was something else, something stronger. There was a connection between him and Lyra that went beyond words. It was deeper than the mission, deeper than the galaxy's politics. It was about two people, standing on the edge of something new, something uncharted. "I'm with you," Adam said, his voice firm. "Whatever comes next, I'll be with you." Lyra smiled, her eyes softening as she looked at him. "I'm glad to hear that, Adam, because no matter what happens, we face it together, as equals." Adam nodded, feeling a sense of purpose he hadn't felt before. Together, they could face whatever the galaxy threw at them. Together, they could make a difference. The weight of the alliance talks, the pressure from the factions, seemed to fade into the background as he looked at Lyra. What mattered now was the bond they had formed, the trust they had built. And, for the first time in a long while, Adam felt like he wasn't alone. "Together," Adam echoed, his heart swelling with a mix of excitement and hope. "Let's do this. Let's change the galaxy." As the night deepened around them, the two of them stood together, hands clasped, looking out at the stars. There was still much to be done, many battles to fight, political and personal. But for the first time, Adam felt like they had a chance. They weren't just two people caught in the middle of a galaxy at war. They were partners, united in purpose, ready to face whatever came next. And in that moment, Adam knew one thing for sure. No matter how complicated the road ahead might be, he wouldn't have to walk it alone. Lyra was with him, and together, they would shape the future.